In this lecture, we're going to set up the attack configuration so our units can have configurable different ways of attacking. Let's start in VS Code, and you shouldn't be surprised that we're going to implement the attack configuration as a scriptable object. Any of our abstract units that can attack will have an attack config, and we'll pull the data from there and use it as needed. In our assets, scripts, units folder, let's make a new file and let's call it attack config SO. Put it in the game dev TV RTS units namespace. Let's make it a public class attack config SO that extends a scriptable object. And attach our create asset menu, file name of attack config, menu name of units/attack config in an order of 7. What types of configurations do you think belong in an attack config? Well, most likely we're going to need an attack range. So let's do a field serialized field, public float attack range with a public get private set, and we'll give it a default value of 1.5f. We'll probably need an attack delay, which is also a float. So I'm just going to duplicate this line, change the value to 1, and change the name to attack delay. Most likely we'll also want to consider how much damage should we do. So again, I'm going to duplicate, maybe give a default of 5, rename it to damage, and change the type to an int. This is most likely the minimal set of information we need for some unit to deal damage. And for the challenge for this lecture, I'd like you to add an attack config SO called attack config to the unit SO, and add the attack config SO to the military unit graphs blackboard, also called attack config. Pause the video, set these ones up, and I'll see you back here in a few minutes. All right, welcome back. I hope this one wasn't super challenging for you. Let's start in the unit SO. We'll put a field serialized field, public attack config SO called attack config with a public get and a private set. That's all in here. We'll come over into Unity. In our military unit graph, on the blackboard, we'll click plus. And if we search for attack, there it is, attack config SO shows up, and we just need to label it attack config. And that's all we were looking for in this challenge. Now let's come in the project panel to the units rifleman and create a new attack config. Let's right click create, units, attack config. We'll call it rifleman attack config. And this rifleman probably needs more than 1.5 attack range. In fact, if we look in the scene view, we can see we've given them an 8 unit radius. So let's update our attack range. Let's do something like 7. Let's say he can attack once per second, and maybe further damage 6. Then on the rifleman scriptable object, just drag that attack config. We can see we're missing a cost. I'll hook up that 50 minerals. As long as we're in here, let's change the build time to 24 and the health to 40. Now we've introduced something interesting because our rifleman's attack config now says 7, but our damageable sensor has a radius of 8. These two aren't in sync, and we would expect that they can probably only tell who's nearby damageable within their attack range. So it would be convenient if the damageable sensor would update its radius based on that attack config. Any thoughts on how we might be able to do that? This one's a little bit tricky. Let's come back to VS Code. If we come to our damageable sensor, we can now see that just a type of collider is not sufficient if we want to dynamically resize it. So let's change the required component to a type of sphere collider. Just reorder our private stuff below all of the public stuff and do a private sphere collider. It's complaining at us because mono behaviors have a default collider. So let's do private new sphere collider to get rid of that warning. Then on awake, we can assign collider to get component sphere collider. And we don't want to have the damageable sensor know about the attack config, because then we have to hook it up both on the unit and the damageable sensor. That leaves us the opportunity to misconfigure something or just totally misassigning it and run into errors. So something we can do, let's go to the bottom and define a public void setup from that accepts the attack config. And in there, we can just do collider.radius equals attack config.attack range. This way, our military unit doesn't have to know about how to configure these things. It's the damageable sensor that knows what to do, provided a particular attack config. Let's save that. In our abstract unit on start, where we're setting up the damageable sensor, we can do damageable sensor.setup from, and then we want to do unit so.attack config. Oops, unit SO is an abstract unit SO. And the abstract unit SO, we didn't attach the attack config to. We put that on just the unit SO, which makes sense if we want only units to be able to attack, because building SO also extends from abstract unit SO. So this becomes a design decision for us. Do we want our buildings to be able to potentially attack or only units? In this course, we are not going to have attacking buildings. So we need a type safe unit SO on the abstract unit to be able to get this attack config. So what we can do is scroll up and do a protected unit SO, lowercase unit SO. On awake, lowercase unit SO equals capital unit SO as unit SO. And then on start, we can just say unit SO, lowercase, .attack config, and it should all be working great. There's one more thing to do in this abstract unit, and that is we want to set that attack config so we don't have to hook it up in the inspector. We could, but that's just an extra step that we can misconfigure. Let's go ahead and move this unit SO assignment to the first thing in awake after we get the components. Then after we set the command, we can do graphagent.setVariableValue, set that attack config to the unit SO.attack config. Now let's come back over into Unity. Let's stay in the scene view and click play. And we would expect now this sphere collider gets cut down by 1 unit because it's set up from the attack config. There we go. Right on the first frame rendering, we see that it shrinks. And we don't have any additional configuration here on our damageable sensor or on our base military unit. It's all coming straight out of the attack config, which we just added to the unit SO. That's all we have in this lecture. We've set up the attack configuration so we can start using that in the behavior tree, which is what's coming up in the next lecture. When you're ready for that, I'll see you over there.